This just in tonight, the mystery drone sightings lead to new restrictions for parts of New York.
This comes after the FAA issued temporary drone restrictions for nearly 24 towns and cities in New Jersey. But as Alicia Reed reports, there are still questions and calls for transparency.
Can you tell me what the Pentagon is doing to address this issue of drone sightings over New Jersey? It's near sensitive installations. The FBI is involved. What is the Pentagon doing?
Sure. So at this time, aware of those drone sightings that have been reported, at this time we have no evidence that these activities are coming from a foreign entity or the work of an adversary. We're going to continue to monitor what is happening, but at no point were our installations threatened when this activity was occurring.
Can you rule out that these are American drones or U.S. military drones?
These are not U.S. military drones. Again, this is being investigated by local law enforcement. What our initial assessment here is that these are not drones or activities coming from a foreign entity or adversary.
Hi guys. So I think I need to go into a bit more detail about this because I think that there is definitely, we're now starting to see some issues with the reporting and on how this is being reported. Based on that video that you just watched before, was recorded by someone that was there on the local tower frequency listening to what was being reported. It's very abundantly clear what they said. They said UAP. See, what the mainstream media is not doing is they are not conveying the facts properly. They keep associating this with drones. They are not drones. Let me be very clear. This isn't conspiracy. This isn't craziness. They are not drones. We had the same situation at Langley Air Force Base in February. They were there for 16 nights and they could not disperse them. This is the same thing all over again. Excuse me. And I think it's really, really, really important that we stick to the facts and that the people are not misled on this issue, which they are currently being. I listened to LBC this morning. They had some professor of drone warfare talking about how it could be the Russians. This is not Russian technology. Let me be very clear. This is not Russian technology. I noticed some of you in the comments, mostly you're probably trolls, you primarily focus on the fact that I gave the wrong geographical location of these 3 RAF bases, which are, of course, Feltwell, Mildenhall, and Lakenheath. And I said the northeast of England. I was wrong, okay? I accept that I was wrong, and, I make mistakes. I'm just human. East of England is where it was going on. And, yeah, that is the correct information on the location of these RAF bases. But I love how that was the main point of focus, and people weren't listening to the core details that I was conveying. And this has been the issue with most people, most of you out there, and I guarantee that most of the people that were listening to this are probably localized within Britain because we are not brought up to speed on what's been going on for the past 2 years, all the congressional stuff, all the whistleblowers. So British people are a lot more rigid with this information than their North American counterpart. So I understand the heat I got from this last video. I get that. That's fine. But all I'm here to do is to report the facts because mainstream media refuses to do their job. Now, based on that video of the radio call between Tower and maybe the F-15 fighter pilots that went up there to go and investigate, it's very abundantly clear what he said over the radio. Okay, that is a real piece of footage. It's not edited. That was real from someone that does all the plane spotting up there. So it's imperative that we get the facts correct. They are not drones. Stop calling them drones. They're not drones. They're not moving like drones. They're not acting like drones. And they cannot disperse them as if they were drones. Okay? Let's get that out of the way. This is a really important precipice moment for amateur journalists like myself that have been covering the UAP situation for the past 2 years. We must convey the facts to people, whether they like them or not. Okay, the facts are this is not Russian technology. They are not drones. Don't let the news tell you that they are drones. They have been preordained to say that to control the narrative. Now, I understand that some of you are going to find this completely and utterly crazy to understand. But if you look at my previous videos with the fact-driven data that I have provided to people over the past 2 years, or over a year now, I've been doing this for 22 months, I've always stuck to the facts where they can be traced elsewhere, whether it be the Schumer amendments, whether it be the congressional hearings that have taken place last week, the Senate hearing that was chaired by Kirsten Gillibrand. I want to provide the details and the facts. I understand that some of you will struggle with this, especially in the UK, because you're not read in. You have not been seeing what's been going on in the United States, and very few people within the UFO community understand the importance of this and how serious this issue really is. This is a national and international flight risk, and it needs to be addressed accordingly. And I have just written to LBC. I intend on going, on their radio live stream, or at least on the news for this, because I'm sick and tired of people misleading the public on what this actually is. It's enough's enough. So I've sent an email to them. I spoke to LBC this morning, and I do intend on pushing this because it's so important that we get the facts right here. Okay.
Nothing nefarious apparently, but they're checking it all out because I think it's just one. There's a lot of drones authorized up there. I think one started and they all got everybody's wanting to get in the deal. But we're following the quote.
Christians, don't fall for the lie. There is a great deception that is coming. We see all this stuff with the UAPs in the sky, and I think there's something that is coming that is going to rock everyone's world. Now listen, I believe that there's going to be a point where the mothership lands, where they actually step out of the ship and they look and they say, there is no such thing as God. We have been here, we seeded your planet, we came before. There is no God. Do not fall for that lie. These are either the offspring of the fallen angels or fallen angels themselves, but they are trying to deceive you and trick you. Christians, do not fall for that. When you see this, just know that your Lord, Jesus Christ, is still on the throne, and that we need to put our faith solely and completely in him. The end is near, but it's beautiful. God bless you guys. Keep your eyes on Christ.
I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. That's the skyline over there. I'm gonna see if I can film this. It keeps showing up outside. Look at that. Look at that. I'm gonna try to zoom in on this. Oh my gosh, do you see that? What the bro. I've seen it all over TikTok. Now I'm literally seeing them in person. This is right next to Nashville, Tennessee. Right in Nashville, Tennessee.
We're kind of preparing the U.S. population, at least, and by extension, the world population, into that reality that there is a presence here, and that we need to explain this presence. Because if they show up and we continue to do what we did before in previous decades, and they show up, there will be mass panic.
They going somewhere. Oh my God.
Hey, Simon Trezellian here. Voice of reason, former intelligence operator in the covert ops role. So let's try this a different way. So this is for entertainment purposes only. And I'm going to tell you a story. It's purely fiction story, but it's a story nonetheless. Okay. So human beings, for some while, have been in communication with, shall we say, outside entities. These are interdimensional beings. Remember, this is a story. And those interdimensional beings have been sharing technology with the highest echelons of the intelligence community on Earth for some while. In fact, since about 1947, when this was really where it all began, after a certain area called Roswell became into the news. Now, this links into a lot of ancient history, including tales from the Sumerians, which talk of a different race called the Anunnaki that came down to Earth and supplied human beings with technology in order to be able to progress. Now, it's got so far in this story that human beings have progressed to the point where we're almost becoming interstellar. Now, that means that we will no longer be earthbound in this 3D matrix that the other beings created in order to give us an indication as to a reality that they wish us to understand, and to blind us from the reality that we are infinite beings. Now, human beings by themselves have flaws, and these flaws were actually bred into them in some ways by our creators in this story. And that explains with the different DNAs, the different blood groups, the O negative element to that. And we can see that we hold not only some of the bloodlines, but also some of the flaws of our creators. So the creators have seen the problems that they created in history when they had their own wars. And they don't want us to go through the same thing, because human beings continue to have war. And that's okay, because it creates a balance in the world. But in this story, as soon as you start utilizing nuclear fission, it then becomes a threat not only to the nations that are involved, but also the planet itself. And the planet in this story is really delicate and needs to have a balance in order for these beings to be able to continue with their mission. And their mission is to increase the consciousness of this group of beings, which we call humankind, which are after their own image. So in this story, imagine that these beings monitor nuclear facilities, and have done since the early 40s, since the emergence of the atomic bomb. And a lot of these sightings of craft, which are interdimensional craft, and some are within the Earth itself, deep in the Earth and in the Earth's oceans, which they use to monitor us in the same way as they monitor us from the moon in this story. And the moon is a projection of a 3D matrix in this story. So imagine that things get out of hand with nuclear proliferation, and the beings have already been able to identify where our missiles are. They know that the missiles don't work, and they know that they can negate nuclear missiles. But imagine in this story that 40 nuclear warheads went missing after the breakup of the Soviet Union. So areas like Kazakhstan, Ukraine, in this story, lost some nuclear munitions, which found themselves in a very deep black market. And say in this story that someone was able to take one of those nuclear munitions, and in the view of trying to create and disrupt the world, brought one of those nuclear munitions to the United States. At that point, different parts of the government that are in collusion with these beings in this story would seek to find that munition. And we have that ability now. It's called drones. And the drones go out there and can sniff for this, nuclear reactive munition in this story. And the plasma orbs in this story are the alien allies that too are trying to find this. And the plasma orbs are interdimensional in this story, where they can go in and out of dimensions and in and out of our reality. We see them one moment and then they disappear the next. So in this uneasy alliance between the beings that created us in this story and what we are doing to the planet in a number of areas, but most certainly the biggest threat to the agenda of these beings in which we are created in their image, they already see what we are likely to do. And should this munition go off, it would create massive change in the world. And that's a change that these beings are not willing to undertake. So at the very highest levels of government. These beings are speaking. They're making themselves known. We've known about them since the Middle Ages and beyond, probably 10,000 years BC. We've known about these, and they've been in constant contact with the leaders of our communities since time began. Now, as we emerge as a nuclear nation and species, we are now in the potential area of threat to destroy the planet in this story. And of course, this story is just pure fiction. Pure fiction. So there we are.
I'm a former Secret Service agent. You guys know that. I'm still in law enforcement. Been doing it for 29 years total with a very small break-in service from my retirement to when I started my new job. But yeah, I just think that we're in uncharted territory right now. I'm trying to find some joy. My wife's like, find some joy. But in all seriousness, we got to figure out what's going on. I don't think if we keep waiting around for the government to bail us out or help us out, I think it's a pipe dream. Are these drones a problem? Probably. Is it imminent? I don't know. But I believe in the Bible, and that's where I take my refuge and my solace. And all this other stuff's white noise. So if you're a Christian, good for you. If you're not, I would highly encourage you to crack open the Bible and start with the book of John, because we are being deceived in many, many ways, and there's only one truth, and that is Jesus Christ.
We're standing outside of Yankee Stadium, where less than 24 hours ago, New Yorkers spotted yet another mysterious drone hovering over the South Bronx. Now, New York Governor Kathy Hochul says there's no evidence that shows that these drones are a threat to the public. But across the Hudson River, Governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey says he's taking his concerns straight to the president.
As a retired federal agent, I know how to read body language pretty well. Sometimes you don't have to read body language. People just lie openly to your face. I'm just thankful that our government officials and all the talking heads on TV and the internet are not lying to us about the drones. I'm glad that they're being very truthful with us, very open and honest and transparent. They're not blocking any videos from going out. They're allowing all types of opinions to be out there on all platforms. I really appreciate TikTok the most, because they haven't banned any of my videos or content. They're allowing me to speak freely and openly and be honest and transparent, just like John Kirby's being with us, and the White House, and all the people from all the places. So much honesty and transparency. I love, not only do I really love my country, which I absolutely do love my country.
Just why does it have to be a classified briefing if these are just hobbyist drones, they're not military drones? Why is it a classified briefing on the Capitol Hill?
I'd have to refer you to Congress on that. Again, sharing as much information as we can here. I don't have the briefing in front of me, so I can't tell you specifically, what aspects are classified or not. I can assure you, though, that again, we are sharing as much information as we can based on what we know.
I believe we are living in the last days as prophesied in the Bible. I believe that the rapture is a very real event where Jesus removes his followers before the time of trouble, the 7-year tribulation. And I believe that we are in the window for his return right now. When I posted all of my evidence on this, I got a mixed reaction. Many people were in agreement and excited. Some wanted to deny the truth, while others were very responsive and gave their lives to Christ. And those were my favorite comments. But there was also some sadness, mostly from the younger crowd. The older crowd was like, I've had enough of this world. Come already, Lord Jesus. But the younger crowd was more affected by sadness. Many saying, man, I just want to have a family first. I just want to finish college. I want to get a house. I want to get married. I just want to live and experience life first. Well, let me put things into perspective for you. Imagine I come up to you with a $100 bill in my left hand. And in my right hand, I come up to you with a briefcase full of $1 million cold hard cash. And I look you in the eyes and I tell you, take your pick. Which one do you want? Well, obviously, you're going to take the briefcase with $1 million, right? And after you get that $1 million, would you ever look back and say, man, I wish I would have taken that $100 instead? Of course not. As soon as you have that $1 million, this $100 bill becomes completely irrelevant. Now, to put things into even greater perspective, it's like saying you have two choices. This key in my left hand allows you to stay on earth, start a family, build a house, and establish a career. And in my right hand, this key allows you to be with Jesus right now and for the rest of eternity. This key represents the $100 bill. This key represents the $1 million briefcase. Now, I'm not saying that starting a family is only worth $100. And likewise, I'm also not saying that being in heaven with Jesus is only worth $1 million. You can't put a monetary value on either of them, but this is the best comparative example that I can give you to adequately put things into perspective. Words don't exist to adequately express how incredible heaven will be, but just understand that the worst day with Jesus will be infinitely better than your best day on earth. And when we get our glorified bodies and we're with Jesus every day will be beyond words that the human mouth can presently speak and that the mind can comprehend. Psalms 84:10 says, "Better is one day in your presence than 1,000 days anywhere else." One day in the presence of God is better than the most elaborate, opulent, expensive 1,000-day vacation that you could possibly plan. So please, try to keep things into perspective, because once you're in heaven, you won't miss a single thing about this earth, and you won't feel like you were robbed of anything. And in fact, you will not want to come back. When you finally got to high school, did you ever wish that you could go back to elementary school? When you got that job that you really wanted, or that promotion that you had been hoping and praying for, did you ever wish that you could go back to that former job that you hated? Of course not. And when you're with Jesus, that will be the best promotion you could ever get. And trust me, you will not ever want to go back to life without him. Saying that you want a family first, and then maybe in 20 to 30 years, okay, I'll be ready for Jesus to come back then. That's kind of like saying, you know what? Go ahead and just give me that hundo right now. And then in 20 to 30 years, I'll come back around for that millie. Does that sound good? That's foolish, right? Well, so it is for you to say that you're not ready for Jesus to return. The truth is, God's plans will be fulfilled no matter what you want. Proverbs 19:21 says, "You can make many plans, but the Lord's purpose will prevail." And in Isaiah 46:10, God says, "I can tell you the future before it happens. Everything I plan will come to pass, for I do whatever I wish." In other words, you can plan your life away, but God has the final say. I know you want to get married. I know you want to start a family. I know you want to experience all the things that life has to offer. That's normal and that's okay. And maybe there will be time for that. But because our minds are limited to the things that we can see and understand, it's so easy to get upset about feeling like we might miss out on something if Jesus comes back too soon. Just know that receiving your glorified body and being with Jesus will be an experience that nothing on earth can ever match. I'm going to do a message soon on what the Bible says about heaven, and I have some theories of my own that are going to blow you away. In fact, you're going to want to go right now. I'll save that for another message, but for now, what should you do? Live as though Jesus will come tomorrow, but plan as though it's a little ways off. But most importantly, get right with Jesus today, right now. Don't wait on that. And secondly, don't be scared. Philippians 4 tells us not to worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank Him for all He has done. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Christ Jesus. If you don't have a relationship with Jesus and you're scared of being left behind, right now is the time to give your life to Him. Romans 10:9 tells us, if you openly declare that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised Him from the dead, you will be saved. What a beautiful promise. Jesus wants you just the way you are, a broken, sinful, dirty train wreck mess of a person. If you weren't a mess, you wouldn't need Jesus. He finds great joy in people turning to Him, allowing Him to do a supernatural work in the lives of broken people. Turn to Him, give your life to Him, live for Him, and you have nothing to be sad or scared about. You don't have to be perfect to bask in the grace and glory of Jesus. In fact, you cannot be perfect until you receive your glorified body. So don't beat yourself up over your sin. God is a God of grace, mercy, forgiveness, and restoration. He's waiting for you right now.